bank money, then what the wait now I will take my notebook. Where is my economics notebook? No, my book.
National income.
Yeah, ma'am. No, like national income is not asked. This will ask bank and money, bank and money. This one. Then this guy asks the which I also get confused by this sir now. Okay, commercial bank we have done this one. Which was with this chapter problem of deficient demand and the express demand.
Okay, excess demand and deficit demand.
Yeah, this chapter, then foreign exchange rate, government, and then foreign exchange rate. This one, yeah,
Government.
this chapter, excess demand, excess supply, then problem of deficient demand, deficient expense demand, express demand, then foreign exchange, then first chapter from the national income.
Macroeconomics.
Yeah, macroeconomics this, then Indian economics. It's the first chapter, no? Indian. What is that?
Okay.
We have not studied that chapter also in our school, but
Yeah, we'll do it after this. We'll do after government budget. We'll do that.
there's a problem. Are you like this question? This chapter is not completed by sir. Now I'm also confused. Like why are this chapter is not completed by sir?
So just forget about him. But the only thing is that, of course, if you will write the answer, he will give you the marks. Right? So you need to write the answers. Okay?
Yes. No idea. I'm
Hmm.
trying.
Okay, now let's just
I'm
start
trying.
with the next concept, which is called budget deficit. Okay, and its type. So, of course, ma'am, first of all, what is this deficit? Right? So, deficit is, for example, you made a plan that I have 1000 rupees and I'll give you a party. Okay, you made a plan that, okay, 500 rupees cake, 250 rupees pizza, and 250 rupees drinks, cold drinks, and all. Right? The soft drinks. Okay, this is what you made. But when you went to the restaurant, over there they made a bill and that is for 1200 rupees. Okay, so you have only 1000 rupees, but the bill is for 1200. So automatically you have 200 rupees deficit. That is which is lack of money, right? So with this 200 rupees, either you will borrow it from your friend, right? Or you will ask the restaurant owner that I'll give it to you later on, like maybe tomorrow or maybe day after tomorrow, right? So this is what the extra money then expected. That is known as deficit. Okay.
Deficit.
So
Yeah.
budget deficit is defined as the excess of total estimated expenditure over total estimated revenue. Your estimated expenditure was that I'll spend 1000 rupees, but your expenditure is like 1200 rupees. And what was your revenue? How much money you had? You have only 1000 rupees. So the expenditure is more than your revenue, the money you have, right? So that is called budget deficit. Okay. When
Okay,
the
ma'am.
government expenditure exceeds its revenue, it's incur a budget deficit, budgetary deficit. So, for example, government made a budget that in this upcoming year, we will spend 1000 crore rupees on schools, infrastructure and all that. But later on, the expenditure was 12,000 crore. So, automatically, it is more than this, right? So, that is called budgetary deficit. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
There are three types of budgetary deficit. First is revenue deficit, fiscal deficit, primary deficit. These are the formula. From here you get the numerical. Okay. Revenue deficit, the formula is total expenditure minus total revenue receipt. Fiscal deficit is total expenditure minus total receipt excluding the borrowing. Primary deficit is fiscal deficit minus interest payment. So you just have to write it down. I'll explain it one by one. What is total expenditure? What is total revenue receipt? All this I'll explain. Okay. So you will write budget deficit and its type. Okay. And then
Yeah,
the
ma'am.
rest.
Done, ma'am.
Okay, now let's just start with the implication, which is very, very important. One questions directly come from the implication. Okay, so now let's just understand this implications. Okay, so first of all is the revenue deficit. So if I'll ask you what is the definition of revenue deficit, you will write, ma'am, revenue deficit is the difference between total expenditure and total revenue receipt. What is the definition of revenue deficit? Tell me.
Total
Difference
expenditure, ma'am.
between.
A difference between total expenditures minus total revenue
Why you are saying
receipt.
minus? You already said difference. The difference between total expenditure and total revenue receipt. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. This is the definition. First, you will write the definition, then the implication. Okay. So when there are three types of deficit. I already told you, which is first is revenue deficit, second is fiscal deficit, third is primary deficit. So how would you get to know that this is revenue deficit and this is fiscal deficit, this is primary deficit, right? For example, I have different student in a class. How would I get to know this is Vivek, this is somebody else? There are some characteristics of Vivek, there are some characteristics of other students as well, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, whenever I say this is a revenue deficit, what does it mean? So revenue deficit indicate the inability of the government to meet the expenditure on routine functioning of the economy. So first of all, whenever you see that government is unable to meet the deficit, that is called revenue deficit. Okay. Second, it implies this saving on government because government is using up the saving of the sector of the economy to cover the gap between revenue expenditure and revenue receipt. So, for example, I had 1,000 rupees for my birthday party, but the bill was 1,200. So either I'll borrow it from somebody or I will use my savings, right? So it implies this saving on government account because government is using up savings of other sector of an economy to cover the gap between the revenue expenditure and revenue receipt. Okay, so that means if there is a revenue deficit, government need to do this saving to overcome from this deficit. Then it implies that the government has to make up the deficit by disturbing the capital budget, right? Either through borrowing or through the sale of its asset, right? Till here you will write. That means government has a deficit. Either they will sell of the assets. For example, I had my car, I sold it and I got the money, then I paid the bill. Okay. Or I will borrow it from somebody else. So that means government to make up the deficit, to cover up this deficit, government will either sell something or government will basically borrow it from somebody else. Then use of capital receipt may lead to inflationary situation in the economy if wasteful expenditure of the government is not controlled. Of course, now government need money. So what they will do, they will increase the prices of the product, right? So that means to cover up. So if there is a revenue deficit, there are high chances that there will be inflation because government will now start increasing the price of the product. Okay. And what happened the next is higher borrowing would increase the future burden. For example, this is the government, right? They took the loan of 500 rupees. Okay, after 5 years, there will be another government. Yes. So
Yeah.
from this 500, they only paid 100 rupees. The remaining balance was 400. So who will pay this? The upcoming next government will pay it, right?
Okay.
Yes. So similarly, it's like, for example, the grandparents took the loan. For example, they are no more, then who will pay? Their son, right? If he is no more, then his son will pay, right? So this is what. So it says higher borrowing would increase the future burden, right? The future generation would have to pay it, right? And plus you are not going to only pay the 400, plus there is an interest as well. So the longer you take, the longer would be the interest, the higher would be the interest. Okay, so you got it. When we say the revenue deficit, first of all, revenue deficit implies that government is not capable enough to get the revenue as compared to its expenditure. Second,
Ma'am,
yes.
I didn't understand.
Which one you? Yeah, I'm explaining the again. Have a look.
Ma'am,
So
can you
first,
explain in Hindi with the diagram?
okay. So first one is revenue deficit, right? I'll try to be as simple as I can, right? So see, revenue deficit indicate inability of the government. Government is not capable enough to whatever, like for example, my bill was 1,200 rupees. So I was unable to pay it, right? Because I was not earning. So that means if you have a revenue deficit, that means government is not good. Government has inability. Government is not able to meet the expenditure, right? By its normal functioning, right? Clear?
Yeah, ma'am.
Second is Now government has a deficit, so what government will do? Government need to pay the bill, na? So what government will do? Government will use the money which is in saving. For example, in a piggy account, you have 200 rupees. So you will somewhere take out the money from the piggy bank. Right. So that means the second point is this saving. Saving is adding the money in the piggy bank. Taking out the money is this saving. Okay. So now it implies that government has to do this saving, right? Because government will be using the savings of different sectors to cover up this gap, to cover up this like the gap between the expenditure and the revenue. Clear?
Yeah, ma'am.
Now the third one is to make up this deficit, right? Government will either borrow from somebody or government will basically sell its asset. For example, I have car, I sold it out. I have two options. Either I'll sell it or I will borrow the money from somebody else. Got it?
Yeah.
And the next one, use of capital receipt may lead to inflationary situation. Now government need money. Government get money from where? From us, na? From the people itself,
Yes.
right? So earlier the tomatoes were for 100 rupees. Now government need money, so they increase the price to 200. Right? So there are high chances if there is a revenue deficit. Government will increase the price, and when government increases the price, that leads to inflation situation. Okay. So use of
Yeah.
capital receipt may lead to inflationary situation in the economy if wasteful expenditure by the government is not combined. If government will not control the expenditure, there will be the inflation in the country. Okay. Next, higher borrowing would increase the future burden, right? If you borrowed a lot, the upcoming future generation would have to suffer. Yes.
Yeah, but ma'am, according to the book, there's
Hmm.
nothing like there's not given like separate like you have given separate. It is like this implication then in national deposit. This five is given only.
Yeah, it's implication. See, every book has their own method, but this is the simplest thing which you can learn for. Okay. So, but first you have to remember the implication. Then, of course, you have a revenue deficit. Then I'll tell you how to come up with this, how to basically reduce the revenue deficit. Clear?
Okay.
Okay. So do it, and then we'll discuss. Just write it down. Till the mark one only. Vivek, finished?
Yeah,
Okay. You got it?
but I'm not understanding the third point and fourth point.
This third one, it implies that the government has to make up this deficit by distributing its capital budget.
Yeah, and the fourth one.
Okay. So this says that makeup means government need to cover up it, right? So government will cover up it by distributing the capital budget. Either they'll borrow it or they will sell it. So even
Yeah,
if you're not getting, you can make up this deficit by either through borrowing or sale of its assets. Clear? Now the next one is, the fourth one says that capital receipt. If you will use the capital receipt, it may lead to the inflationary situation in the economy. Right? As I told you that government has a deficit. So government will increase the price. Right? If government will keep on spending a lot, the more deficit would be. Right? For example, the bill was 1200. Right? Even like for example, after that also you keep on ordering the food materials. Now the bill is 1600 rupees. Right? So if government will not stop spending, then automatically they will increase the price of the product, right? And it will lead to the inflationary situation. Clear?
yes,
Okay. Now, measure. Now you have to control the revenue deficit. So what can you do? First of all, reduce the revenue deficit. First, reduce the public expenditure. Government, wherever government is spending the money, reduce it. Okay. And second, measure to increase the revenue are, first, a drastic reduction in wasteful expenditure, that is subsidies. Right? Government basically gives subsidies to the poor people. Right? So automatically government is giving the money. So stop it. Stop giving subsidies to the people. So automatically your expenditure got reduced. Then whatever there are non-plan expenditure, government spend a lot of money in non-plan expenditure, reduce that as well. So by curtailing means by reducing it. Instead of curtailing, you can even write reduce. Reducing. Right? Then increase the revenue. Now government need more money. See, first thing is that I will stop my expenditure. So there are two methods you can stop your expenditure. First, stop giving subsidies to the poor people. Okay, ma'am, I'll not give the subsidies. My money is with me only. Second, whatever expenditure, non-planned development expenditure I'm doing, that stop it. Don't do that. Yes, automatically I'll save the money. If you are not saving the money, then increase the revenue. Okay, first, whatever the tax rate was there, for example, I was paying 10 rupees or 20 rupees tax, now I increased to the 40 rupees. Automatically, I will get double money from the people. Second, whatever public sector enterprises are there, just increase the, like try to get more and more from them. Like for example, I am earning 1 lakh rupees a month. I am paying 10,000 rupees tax. But now government said you have to pay 20,000 rupees tax. So from my earning, government is earning more, right? And tax evasion. Lot of the people do that, they don't pay tax, right? So earlier government is like, okay, out of 100 rupees, 100 people, if 80 are paying tax, the rest 20 government don't take any action. But now government need that 100 people out of 100 people should pay the tax. So government will try to take the measures. The government will try to, this tax evasion part, government will try to control it. Clear?
yes,
Okay. So there are two things. One, reduce the public expenditure. Second, increase the revenue. So how can they reduce the public expenditure? Don't give subsidies. Don't do any, reduce the non-plan expenditure. Right. If you want to increase the money, increase the taxes, increase the public expenditure, and tax evasion, control the tax evasion. Clear?
yeah,
Okay. So now you will write the heading measure to reduce revenue deficit, then A, then B. Okay.
Done, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's just start with the next one. First of all, the next is the fiscal deficit. Okay. So, ma'am, what is the fiscal deficit? So, fiscal deficit refers to the excess of total expenditure over total receipt. Whatever receipt you are getting, and that is excess of the expenditure, excluding borrowing during a fiscal year. Clear? So,
Yes, ma'am.
so this is the definition of fiscal deficit. Okay. So now, what are the implication of fiscal deficit, ma'am? First, the implication is debt trap. Okay, now, ma'am, what is this debt trap basically? For example, you borrowed 100 rupees. Okay, you have to return 100 rupees plus 20 rupees as a tax. Okay, the next month you promised. Okay, so next month came, you were only able to pay 100 rupees, but this 20 rupees you were unable to pay. Okay, so what you did, for this 20 rupees you borrowed it from somewhere else. Got it? Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the next month, when the next month came, you had to return this 20 rupees to that person along with the interest. Now 20 plus 10. Okay. The next month came, you were only able to pay 20 rupees, but again the 10 rupees you were unable to pay. So you again borrowed this 10 rupees from somebody else. Okay. Now again you have to pay this 10 rupees next month. So you plus the 10 rupees tax as well. So you were only pay. So what you are doing, just to cover up the previous tax, previous loan, you are borrowing it from somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So just to cover up that, you are borrowing it from somebody else, which is not a good thing. So that is called debt trap. You are basically in a trap now. So just to cover up the first one, you are taking the another loan. Just to cover up that, you are taking the another one. So this is a trap, which is known as debt trap. Okay. Debt is karj ka trap. Okay. Right? Because just to cover up the karj of previous one, you are taking karj from somebody else. You're borrowing it from somebody else. Right?
But it is, ma'am. But it is not there.
Huh?
That trap is not there in book.
But it would be there. They would have given it something else, but it would be there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which book you are following, Vivek?
I'm following, ma'am. This one. VK book na TS Jain.
Okay, VKOD. Just share me the cover page of this. I'll try to get the PDF of that, and if you want the same thing, I'll explain it from there so that you can read it from your own textbook.
Yeah,
Okay?
ma'am. Because ma'am, it is difference na. I cannot.
I can understand that. Okay. So let's just finish this chapter from here and rest. You'll just share the cover page. I'll get the soft copy of it and then I'll explain it from there. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Now, debt trap. So, fiscal deficit refers to the total borrowing requirement of the government. Borrowing create a problem of repayment of loans and also a regular interest payment. So, interest payment increases the revenue expenditure, which leads to revenue deficit. The government resort to further borrowing to repay the earlier loan. The country is caught in a debt trap. Clear?
Yes.
Got it? So now government has to borrow earlier just to pay the earlier loans. Okay. And this is how the country is being trapped in a debt trap. Okay.
Okay.
You will first write the definition of this fiscal deficit till here. Then you will write implication, just write the debt trap. Then I'll tell second and third.
Until where I have right? Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, Vivek.
Till where I have to write?
This one, the first one, see, first you will write the definition, then till here. Okay, the debt trap only. Then I will explain the rest. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, wait, don't write this first one till here. Right, start writing from here. Borrowing creates problem. Okay.
Okay. Can you explain it again, the debt trap? Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, Vivek, tell me. Done?
Yeah, done. Can you explain me again the debt
Okay.
trap?
So basically, debt trap, see, borrowing create a problem of repayment of loan. If you are borrowing something, right, then you have to repay it. Clear?
Yeah.
Right? So that means, and a regular interest payment. You have to repay it plus you have to pay the interest. Okay? So interest payment increases the revenue expenditure, which leads to revenue deficit. So because of interest only, your revenue is increasing. Right? And so government resort to further borrowing. So now you have to pay the loan plus the interest. So just to pay the earlier loans, government is forced to take the loan for the next. Right? So that calls a debt trap. Just to clear the previous loan, you have to take the money from the other source just to clear the previous one. And then you took from, like for example, I took money from you. I promise that I'll return it tomorrow. So just to pay your loan, I took it from your friend. Now your is clear, but now I took money from your friend. Now I have to return that as well. So for just to clear that, I took money from my friend. So this cycle keeps on repeating, which is called debt trap. Just to cover up the first one, you are again going in a trap. Just to cover up that, you are again taking the loan. So that is called debt trap. Clear?
Okay.
Okay. So that's it for today. The next one will continue, and this one, and then there is a